The forest doesn't move. That's what Ranger Hall used to say. Trees stay rooted, rocks don't wander, and shadows always fall the same way. Until one night, when the shadows didn't. It started as a standard patrol along the northern ridge, a path few visitors ever reach, where the map fades into unmarked terrain. The air there hangs heavy, and the mist clings to the treetops like breath that never leaves. Just after 2 a.m., the ranger noted a strange movement near the tree line. The moon was low, silvering the branches, but what caught his eye wasn't the light, it was the darkness. The shadows were longer than they should have been, much longer. He thought it was a trick, maybe fog, maybe exhaustion, until one of those shadows shifted against the light. That's when he reached for his recorder. The tape that followed was archived, cataloged, and quietly forgotten. But the details, the words in that log, never left the rangers who heard it. What Ranger Hall documented that night has no scientific record, no official explanation. Just one cryptic phrase that still sits at the top of his final report. Shadows taller than trees. And this is his record. Ranger William Hall had worked these woods for 12 years. He wasn't the kind of man who spooked easy. He'd seen his share of storms, flash floods, and hikers who swore they'd heard voices in the trees. His station sat on the far northern edge of Olympic National Park, a stretch of land that most maps flatten into a blur of contour lines and blank space. No cell service, no nearby outposts. Just him, a weather radio, and a logbook thick with entries that all sounded the same. Trail cleared, weather steady, wildlife minimal. That was his rhythm, until early October, when the weather turned colder and the reports began to change. The park's central office kept a policy of nightly check-ins. Each ranger had to radio their coordinates before midnight. Hall never missed one. Not once in 12 years. But on October 9th, the transmission came late. His voice was calm, but something about it felt off. A hesitation. The recording still exists, logged under entry 47. North Ridge. Visibility poor. Shadows behaving strange. Continuing patrol. That was all he said. Most rangers who heard that line the next morning brushed it off. Fatigue, bad weather, maybe too much caffeine and too little sleep. But Hall kept recording that night. He kept walking. And before dawn, he'd document something that would never make it into the official report. The next entries in Hall's log came hours apart, spaced with a kind of precision that only a man used to long, silent nights could manage. 2:11 a.m. Movement near the boundary marker. No tracks visible. Fog thick. 2:23 a.m. Motion sensor triggered. The system logs something tall, 7 feet, maybe 8, moving west to east. He noted the direction, checked the beam. Nothing there. No eye shine, no sound. Not even a rustle in the undergrowth. The temperature dropped 3 degrees in less than a minute. He recorded that too. From his position on the ridge, he could see the tree line curve with the slope. Clean, predictable. But between the trunks, where the moonlight touched, the shadows didn't match. They stretched unevenly, some reaching farther uphill, others bending across the grain of the light, as if they were cast from somewhere else entirely. Hall repositioned the beam of his flashlight. The shadows didn't respond. They didn't shift. Even when he moved the light directly through them, he tried again. This time, sweeping the beam in an arc across the clearing, the mist scattered in ribbons, revealing the shape of a figure standing motionless among the trees. No face, no features, just a density darker than the night around it. He blinked once, and it was gone. His recorder clicked on automatically, the way it always did during patrol notes. You can still hear the wind in that clip, the faint hum of the power line a mile away. Then his voice. North Ridge. Visual anomaly. Recording for log A. Short pause. The sound of gravel underfoot. Then, in a lower voice, the shadows moving uphill. In the minutes that followed, Hall walked the perimeter twice. The sensors didn't trigger again, but each time he turned back toward the cabin, he saw it, just for a heartbeat. The same elongated silhouette, slipping between the trees like it was learning how to move. He marked its estimated position on his map. A blank patch of forest with no trail, no campsite, and no reason for anyone to be there. His last note for the night was simple, clipped, procedural, almost indifferent. Possible optical error. Reassess at sunrise. But sunrise never came. What came next wasn't written. It was recorded. Entry 48 begins with static, the kind that flickers when a battery starts to fade. Then the hum of Hall's breathing, measured, steady, almost calm. For 20 seconds, nothing. Just the sound of the wind threading through the trees. Then, tap, tap, tap. Like someone knocking gently on the side of his cabin wall. 3 times, evenly spaced. Hall doesn't speak. He just breathes. You can hear him step closer to the microphone, the creak of the floorboards beneath his boots. Tap, tap, tap. The same rhythm, but this time from the opposite side of the cabin. When experts reviewed the audio later, they found no secondary source. No animal pattern, no echo delay that could explain the shift. Whatever was producing that sound had moved around the structure in under 3 seconds. The tape runs for nearly 2 minutes. Then Hall's voice cuts in. Quiet, but clear. The shadows. They're not cast anymore. Another pause. You can hear the tremor in his breath. They're standing. The next recording, entry 49, was made just before dawn. The tone is different, more detached. Like a man trying to file a report about something his mind won't fully let him believe. Multiple anomalies observed. Shapes appear larger before sunrise. No identifiable source. Cabin interior temperature dropped 10 degrees. Attempting to document visually, he rustles with his field camera. A faint mechanical click, then silence. The photo that developed hours later, grainy, underexposed, shows nothing more than the tree line and a white haze where the sky should be. But analysts noted something odd. In the corner of the frame, a faint silhouette stretched vertically, overlapping the tops of the trees. A shadow with no visible object to cast it. Hall never commented on the photo in later logs. He simply wrote, "Trees remain same height. Shadows do not." That was his last. The morning after the last recording, Central Dispatch logged a failed check-in. Hall's transmitter had gone silent sometime before sunrise. At first, the delay raised no alarm. Northern patrols were known for radio dead zones and long nights. But by the second missed contact, procedure required a verification call. No response. A 2-man team was sent from the nearest outpost. They reached Hall's cabin 12 hours later. The door was unlocked, the power still running, the logs stacked neatly on the desk. His radio lay beside the recorder, both fully charged. The official report listed no sign of struggle, no forced entry, no blood, no footprints, no sign of departure. Just one set of boot marks that stopped 5 feet outside the threshold. The first theory was environmental, temperature inversion. In heavy fog, warm and cold layers of air can bend sound and light, stretching shadows far beyond their source. Others proposed pareidolia, the human tendency to see meaning in chaos. Exhaustion, isolation, sleep deprivation. All of it can warp perception, even in trained professionals. And then there was the tape. Audio engineers examined it for mechanical interference. They found none. The tapping sound that moved from one side of the cabin to the other didn't follow any pattern of echo or feedback. It was too fast, too consistent, and most notably, registered outside the cabin walls, not within. An acoustic analysis conducted by the park's technical division later found faint, low-frequency vibrations, infrasound, beneath the audible range of human hearing. At those frequencies, studies show, the body reacts before the mind does. Increased heart rate, unease, visual distortion. Some believe infrasound is the physical basis for so-called haunted sensations in isolated environments. It could explain the sense of movement, the unnatural silence, even the impression of shapes shifting where none existed. But it doesn't explain the footprints. The search team found a series of impressions behind the cabin. Deep, elongated, human in pattern but measuring nearly 4 feet in length. They followed them for 30 yards before. 2 nights after the investigation team cleared the site, a new recording appeared on the Ranger network. No one knew how it was uploaded. The metadata showed no origin point, just the same ID tag assigned to Hall's original transmitter. The file was only 31 seconds long. The audio begins with breathing, heavier now, uneven, a faint rustle of leaves. Then, Hall's voice. Testing signal, northern ridge, visibility, 0. Static. Then the low hum of something rhythmic, almost like wind dragging across a hollow. But it wasn't wind. The frequency stayed constant, deep, pulsing, mechanical in pattern. In the background, faint movement, a step, another, crunching against gravel. Hall exhales, then mutters something that the analysis team later amplified. They're closer now, taller than before. The microphone clicks against his jacket as he turns. You can hear his boots scuffing against rock, and then a sharp intake of breath. The kind a person makes when they see something their mind can't immediately name. The sound that follows is subtle but distinct. Not a growl, not a voice. More like a shift of pressure, as though the air itself moved. Then, a single sentence. Calm, quiet, and final. The shadows. They're looking back. A crackle of static fills the rest of the file before it cuts to silence. No further transmissions were ever received from Hall's unit. Search teams returned to the ridge a week later. The cabin remained untouched, everything in its place. The forest looked the same, except for one difference. The tree line along the northern slope had changed. Where Hall's station logs once listed Douglas firs averaging 60 feet tall, the new survey recorded them at 51, 9 feet shorter. no one could explain why. The recovery report dated October 18, 1996, marks the official end of the Northern Patrol Station's operations. The cabin was emptied, its equipment cataloged and transferred to the main Ranger depot. The logs, all 49 of them, were sealed in a weatherproof container and sent to the regional archives in Port Angeles. Most of the audio reels were blank. Only 3 contained voice recordings, and of those, only 1 matched Hall's voice profile. The other 2 were marked as corrupted, their waveforms unreadable, filled with gaps of silence broken by short bursts of static. Rangers who visited the site weeks later reported nothing unusual. The sensors had been removed, the path remapped, the boundary markers reset. On paper, it was just another closed operation. A missing ranger in rough terrain, an unresolved disappearance. Yet among the paperwork, one item was logged separately. A small notebook found wedged behind the cabin's field desk. It wasn't part of the official log sequence. The handwriting was rushed, different from Hall's earlier notes, uneven and sharp, as though written in the dark. Only a single line filled the page. They move when the light dies. Below it, the rest of the notebook was blank. The file was stamped Incident Concluded and archived under Environmental Anomalies, a category usually reserved for lightning damage and rock slides. No one ever reopened the case. But rangers who patrol the northern ridge today say the sensors still flicker to life some nights, recording movement where there's nothing on camera, always near the old station's coordinates. And when the fog settles low enough, the tree shadows don't line up with the trunks. What exactly happened on the northern ridge has never been proven. The park's official report lists environmental distortion as the probable cause of Hall's disappearance. But there's a margin, a gray area, where natural explanation begins to stretch thin. Scientists studying infrasound phenomena have long noted that low-frequency vibrations can trigger disorientation, anxiety, and the illusion of movement in peripheral vision. At certain amplitudes, even shadows can appear to shift, not because they move, but because you do. Psychologists call it temporal dissonance, when the brain can't sync what the eyes see with what the body feels. Hall's long isolation, sleep deprivation, and exposure to high-frequency weather systems could have been enough to bend his perception just slightly. Enough to make darkness seem alive. Or maybe it wasn't perception at all. Some rangers who worked the ridge years later claim that the forest there doesn't obey the same rules of light. They talk about moonless nights when the shadows lean uphill, as if drawn by something deeper in the valley. Folklorists trace those stories back centuries. Indigenous accounts of the tall dark, entities that stand where no light should reach, said to appear when the forest is left unobserved for too long. There's no evidence to connect those legends to Hall's recordings, but the similarities are difficult to ignore. Whether it was infrasound, fatigue, or something beyond our measurement, one fact remains. His final transmission was real, his voice authenticated, and the phrase he left behind, "The shadows are looking back," still sits archived under his Ranger ID, entry 49. Sometimes science gives us the tools to explain what we fear. Other times, it just teaches us how to describe it more accurately. The forest doesn't move. That's what Ranger Hall used to say, but maybe he was wrong. Maybe the trees stand still only because something else is moving for them, shifting in the spaces we don't notice, in the hours when no light should reach the ground. Every forest keeps a record. Footprints fade, branches regrow, storms pass, but the shadows remember. Somewhere, buried deep in the park's archives, Hall's logbook still sits, sealed, silent, marked with a single phrase that never found a logical answer. Shadows taller than trees. If you ever find yourself walking those ridges after dark, pay attention to the ground. Watch how the moonlight bends between the trunks. And if you ever notice a shadow that doesn't belong to you, one that stretches just a little farther than it should, don't look for its source. Just keep walking. The forest doesn't move, but the shadows sometimes do.